It seems that some developers of Linux are going the MGTOW route. And what I mean by that is let me go and be honest with you. MGTOW is very black pill. Okay? Extremely black pill. I'm not making this up. Stop and think for a minute. If men are the engine of society, and they're the ones pulling the majority of the weight and keeping the wheels of progress turning, what do you think is going to happen when these men just go golf? And it's kind of like, oh, well, you're wanting society to collapse in on itself. And I'm like, yeah, of course I do. I mean, that's kind of the entire point. That's not a disadvantage, that's a benefit. I mean, if we're talking about, hey, here's a society that's dependent upon this group of people, but it treats them like shit. In fact, not only that, they're frequently exploited and treated a little better than slaves. Okay, I'm sorry, but that society deserves to die. Fuck it, it deserves to die. I don't care what you say. And, of course, I'm like, well, yeah, duh. Well, just let them walk out the door. And when things start falling apart and society realizes it needs men, maybe men will be treated like, I don't know, human beings instead of slave labor. Or maybe instead what will happen is the people who went MGTOW will probably go and realize that maybe praying to Mecca 3 times a day isn't such a bad deal after all. I mean, I'm not saying that Islam is a good religion to join, but I am saying at the very least as a guy, you are being treated like a human being. You're actually treated in a way that is at least human, so long, of course, as long as you go and believe in Allah. And I can see a number of people who've, been burnt by the justice system so many times that they're like, okay, I believe in Allah. I'll believe in the Tooth Fairy and in the Easter Bunny too, just to go and throw it in for free because I have been given such a shitty deal that, a group that actually values men in at least some fashion, I mean, it's not perfect, it's not great, but it's a lot better than what we got now in our own society. I totally see this happening. The point is, the entire let's just burn it down, well, what do you think is going on with the Linux stuff? And what I mean by that, for those who don't know, Linux, some of the people whose code is a part of Linux, because of the SJWs infiltrating it and everything else, they're like, oh yeah, you need to get rid of these people. They're problematic. Yeah, they're such horrible, they probably voted for Trump, so let's go and get rid of these people who are problematic. Well, okay, they're like, you don't want me in this community anymore? That's fine. I'll just take my code and go home. And that's essentially what they're doing. They're like, okay, this is my code. I own the copyright to it. And if anyone reuses this code without my express say-so, I will sue your ass. And I understand what's going to happen. It's going to have a big effect. It's going to have a big effect on the internet. It's going to have a big effect on businesses. It's going to have a big effect on websites. It's going to go and have a big effect overall. I know this and I understand it and I support it 110%. The reason for this is because this is how you go and handle SJWs. You don't give in. It's like, oh, you're moving in? Well, that's okay because just let me burn the place down first and you can have it. And you can sit and say, well, that's cold, that's hard, that's bitter. And I'm like, yeah, well, so what? I mean, seriously, so what? I mean, you go and give these people room in your society. They're going to come in and take it over. I've seen this happen time and again. You go and say, we value what we're doing so much, we'd rather everyone lose because by the time you take over it, everyone's going to lose anyhow. I mean, think about it. I don't care who's writing my code, okay? I don't use Linux, keep that in mind, but if I did use Linux, I really wouldn't care who's writing it. It's kind of like, it's been snowing for a week straight. The snow is several feet high, and it's like, oh, the guy who's driving the snowplow? Yeah, I know that he's clearing the roads and everything, but wouldn't you know it, he's a straight white male. And that job should be taken from him and given to, some blue-haired lesbian with a feminist degree or some kind of, quote-unquote, diverse people. And I'm like, really? That's your biggest concern? Your biggest concern is not, hey, let's get the fucking snow out of the road. That's not your biggest concern. Your biggest concern is, oh my, what color is the guy driving the fucking snowplow? And I'm sorry, but it's like people like these, we don't need you, we don't want you. In fact, if we have to burn the place to the ground to keep you people out, that's what we're willing to do. I mean, that is how you go and win the culture war that we're in. I don't give a damn about what you are. I care about what you do. I should not have to go and say this. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Black people are so inferior to white people. Just completely inferior, can't do shit. I mean, that's why when it comes to black people, a meritocracy is a microaggression against black people because they're just so damn inferior. Now, keep in mind, that's not what the left is saying, but that is essentially what I just said. That is what they're saying when you strip out all the bullshit. I'm sorry, but I don't look at black people as being a bunch of morons. I go and look at them as, can you do the job? If you can't do the job, I don't care. Pack your bags and get out. If you can do the job, welcome aboard. The only criteria that should be cared about is not, hey, who do you want to fuck? Or, oh, what color were your parents when they had sex? Or, oh, tell me, what do you identify as? I identify as a potato peeler. And unfortunately, the Army tends to agree with me. But joking aside, yeah, it's extremist, but what do you think we're fighting against? We're fighting a bunch of people who are whacked out of their minds, who don't know how reality works, and haven't been so indoctrinated by their communist professor that you don't argue with these people. You tell them to eat a dick and then go home. That's how you handle it. And if they go and say, oh, well, you're a race, you're a sexist, you're whatever, you're just like, fine, we don't care. Go and get out. We don't want you. You're wasting your time and ours. We can sit and keep calling each other names, or you can just shut up and start leaving. That is how you handle these people. You don't argue. You don't acquiesce. You give them the middle finger and tell them to get lost.